Hello and good afternoon. Hi, it's Dr. Linda. Thank you for joining Real Talk with Dr. Linda today. Today, we're going to talk about how do you go from confrontation to communication. And you're probably wondering, oh my gosh, what is that going to be about? Or some of you may be saying, oh my goodness, I needed this like yesterday. So, we're going to spend a few moments talking about some steps that you can take. And there's three simple steps that you can do when you're dealing with challenges in the workplace, having these crucial conversations, and how do you end up having an effective communication or an effective dialogue with someone that you may be struggling with in having this conversation. So three simple steps, and I'll go through those with you today. The first is connection. Well, let's start with the first one is establishing common ground. The second is connection. And then the third is collaboration. So, what do I mean by common ground? Well, if you are having a situation, a difficult situation with someone, or you're preparing for a conversation that may not be um, as positive as you may think, or you're not sure what the conversation is going to look like because maybe someone shared feedback with you and you want to have a dialogue around that. So you want to establish common ground before you start the conversation. Set the tone, maybe schedule a meeting ahead of time with this individual, and just really talk about the dynamics of what actually happened and why you need to have this conversation. Because we don't want to have a confrontation in the workplace. We want to be able to communicate and communicate effectively with our colleagues, our leaders, staff, whomever. So establish a common ground. You agree to disagree. You agree that you'll have this conversation. And at the end of the day, you'll figure out next steps. So create some common ground before you start that confrontation. Secondly, is connecting. Now, um, when I worked in corporate America, one of the things I loved doing every single day when I came into the office was going to each cubicle or each desk of my staff and finding out how their morning is going, finding out how their day is going, or before the end of the day, how things went. So you want to establish a connection with the person that you may be having that confrontation with, or that just a dialogue. Um, so you want to make the connection. So let's say, for an example, that you got received some feedback from someone that wasn't as positive as you thought it should be, or you didn't understand why they said something. For an example, someone may have said that you came across being sarcastic, and you didn't feel that you were sarcastic. So, number one step is establish common ground. Number two is connection. So, as you're having that dialogue with an individual, you know, ask some questions that are not related to the situation. So maybe you're in the same group as far as outside of work, or maybe your kids play similar sports, or maybe you both enjoy a particular hobby. But just talk about something outside of work, something outside of this crucial conversation that you're about to have, and establish a connection. Maybe it's just as simple as talking about, the weather for how it's going today, but establish a connection so that, you have that eye to eye contact with this individual. You've already set the groundwork, and now you're really ready to start talking about whatever the situation is about that you may uh, believe that it could be confrontational, or maybe it's feedback, or maybe you didn't do something at work, so your productivity scores or numbers are not where they need to be. So make sure that you establish a connection with the individual. And thirdly, collaboration. You want to make sure that if someone is or has provided positive or negative feedback to you, you want to make sure that you partner on this feedback at the end of the discussion. So if someone came to you and said, maybe you didn't understand something they said, and again, maybe your tone of voice or your pitch, your tonality was not as positive as they would like, Or maybe they saw you roll your eyes and you weren't really rolling your eyes at them. You were thinking about something and you just kind of looked up. So when people share that information with you, have the conversation that, number one, I heard what you said. Number two, thanking them for sharing that feedback with you. And then number three, do like a buddy system. Say, hey, my apologies for doing that to you or coming across as if I was sarcastic or wasn't interested. And the partnership piece is to say, you know, as you say, thank you for sharing that, say, the next time you see me do that, maybe tap me on the shoulder or send me a text message or walk up to me and say, hey, something that would remind me that I am making these facial expressions or some type of body language, sending off body language that's not as positive. It is completely okay to do that. Um, because we may not be thinking about our facial expressions when we're in the workplace. We may not be thinking about how we're coming across to others. Because if you're in a stressful environment, you're not focused on that. You're focused on getting the job done. Or if you're leading a team, you're focused on, you've got meetings going on, or you're trying to get some projects completed, whatever that is for you. So you may not be as aware. So being aware of some of your body language or communication styles or communication behaviors, being aware of that will help you in the long run so that you can take a conversation that may start off as confrontational to turn that around and make it a productive conversation. You can use this with your children, you can use this with your spouse or significant other. I can tell you oftentimes I have to tone myself down when talking to my husband because I'm in business mode a lot of the times. And if he's worked a long, hard day and he comes and he says something to me, I'm still like in the business mode and I may come across a little snippy because sometimes I can be that way, unfortunately, for those you're probably saying, oh my gosh, are you really? But sometimes you may come across that way. You don't mean to intentionally, because I'm not really thinking about that because I'm like, let's get this done, let's get that done. And he may be like, I'm just trying to chill out. So I have to remind myself that, you know, that's your spouse, not your child, not your employee, which you shouldn't do employees like that either. But you want to make sure that you are in tune with your tone of voice. Make sure that you're in tune with your body language, how you say something to someone, not what you say, but how you say that can make a huge impact on that person. If they're having a bad day already and you come across the wrong way, that can mess up that entire person's day. So you want to be so mindful of your tone of voice, that voice inflection, so that it comes across in a positive manner. So if you notice when I'm talking now, my tone of voice has changed a little bit. I'm talking a little bit slower. I'm giving you more of that eye to eye contact. And that's what people want when you're having a conversation with them. They want to know that you're listening, you hear them, you see them, you respect what they're saying. So, hopefully, these three tips of confrontation to communication around common ground, connecting, and collaboration have been helpful and beneficial to you. Maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow when you watch the replay. So, with that, I will chat with you next Thursday. Thank you for joining Real Talk with Dr. Linda. Bye bye.